Hello, my name's Jim Daniels, and I'm your host for this podcast. I hope you like it. What I have are stories. Some are stories from my past, some of them are just made up stories. I hope you like them. They all come under fiction because the ones that are from my past are memories from 30, 40, 50 years ago. And it turns out memories are not always precise. But yeah, if you have siblings, you may have had an occasion to get together with your siblings and talk about things that happened in the past, and lo and behold, you don't remember them the same way. Well, kind of happens that way. But this is a story from I graduated high school, and I was working for the school district at the high school. Now, this high school had, if I remember correctly, had 7 buildings. It was laid out in a campus style, which means that instead of having 5 stories, you had 5 different buildings set all over the place. And you walked across the courtyard to get to the other part of the building, which sounds really great, excepting in the winter when it was very cold and, things like that. But it was a good idea, maybe. Well, people may think that a custodian's job, which is a job I had, my dad got it for me. But people think a custodian's job is nothing more than just cleaning up after other people. And this is invariably part of the job. But it's very far from being all of it. A modern building, in this case, meaning one that was built in the early 60s, needs a great deal of care to keep it usable. First of all, indoor plumbing, which we all love indoor plumbing, right? Wouldn't like going out to an outhouse or something, but indoor plumbing, which we all love, can put the whole building in danger of irreparable damage. That means damage that can't be repaired from leaking pipes. Small leaks lead to mold and rot, and large leaks leading to structural damage, even to the point of rendering the building totally useless. One of the requirements of preventing water damage, especially in the winter, is a good heating system. Without a good heating system, the pipes freeze, they break. Yeah, you know. But unlike most homes, schools will sit empty and unused for days or even weeks. There is often no one there overnight. So if the heating system stops working, it's possible that no one will even know about it until, there's a lot of damage done. So it's important that you do preventative maintenance on the heating system. So, bearing that in mind, and knowing that my dad was trying to get me to go to school, so he was giving me hard and dirty jobs, things like that, I was given the assignment of cleaning the furnaces at the high school. I don't know if any of you have ever cleaned the furnace. Before this, I didn't know that you cleaned furnaces. I didn't know you did that. I didn't know that was a thing, But, the 7, 8, or 9 buildings, whatever it was, had a central heating system, and it used hot water. And to do this, there are these 2 boilers, and they stand like 2.5, 3 stories tall. At the top were 2 large steel doors on each furnace. They closed like barn doors, they overlapped and they locked. Inside these doors was housed a heat exchanger. The heat exchanger was a water jacket with large tubes running through it. In order to clean it, someone had to climb up on a scaffold and push a long pole with a brush on it down each tube. The difficulty in cleaning came mostly from standing on a wobbly platform 20 feet in the air. The fact that the room was dimly lit was in no way helpful. Like I said, my dad wanted me to go to school, and his way of encouraging me to do that was to show me that, regular working, blue-collar work was hard and dirty and difficult, and it didn't faze me a bit, incidentally. Didn't help. I'd already planned on going to school, but he didn't know that. But to this end, he had asked the men that I was working with to encourage me to go to school, and what that meant was giving me all the things that nobody else wanted to do. Or in this case, giving me a job that was kind of scary. Because you're standing on a scaffold in the dark, basically, in this big open room, working on this really big furnace. But my attitude was, if you got a job, just do it. Get done with it and go on to something else. Well, it went something like this. I entered the furnace room. Now, I'd been in furnace rooms before, but not like this one. Before me, rising from the floor, nearly to the ceiling some 30 feet over my head, was the biggest pair of furnaces I had ever seen. There were 2 8-inch gas pipes running to the base of each of these behemoths. I don't know if you've ever seen an 8-inch gas pipe, but that's 8-inch diameter, 8 inches across. It's a really big gas pipe. Well, Jimmy, can you handle those? That was John. He slapped me on the back, and he asked the question with a big smile, because John always asks questions with a big smile. He enjoyed people. He enjoyed being in charge. Now you have to understand, I had no earthly idea what he was talking about. I mean, how do you handle a furnace? I had no idea how to handle the furnace that was in the basement of my parents' house, which was a whole lot smaller than these things. Here I am, looking at something that looked like it came out of one of my grandfather's made-up stories. At that moment, I was forced to rethink Granddad's stories. Were they really made up? Perhaps, perhaps not. But here I was being asked if I could handle something I had no idea what I was to do. But I could never admit that to the older men. Sure, no problem, I answered, without the slightest notion of what I was getting into. Okay, Jimmy, Mike will tell you what to do, John said over his shoulder as he left the room. Now, the man's name was not Mike, but it was nearly 50 years ago. Give me a break, you know? Cut me some slack. At any rate, I'm going to call him Mike. Go over there and bring that over here. Mike pointed to a dark corner of the room where there were some pipes that ran from the floor, disappearing into the gloom near the ceiling. Bring what over here? I asked, bewildered by his request. Mike took a deep breath and let out a sort of groan. The scaffold. Have you never seen a scaffold? Bring the scaffold over here. Well, in point of fact, I had never seen a scaffold. I didn't know what one was. But I was not going to admit that to Mike. So I came up with a plan. I would walk towards the pipe, and when I found something that could be moved, I would bring it to Mike. So I slowly walked towards the pipes. As I got closer, I could see wheels on the bottom of the pipes and a sort of platform running between the pipes on either end. Was this a scaffold? I didn't see anything else, so it must be. I grabbed it and started to pull it towards Mike. It moved easily. That was a good sign. When I got to Mike, I stopped. Now what? I asked, half expecting a rebuke for having brought the wrong thing. Well, climb up the side and get on the platform, Mike said. His tone made it seem as though I should have known that. Maybe I should have. After all, how many things can one do with a scaffold in a dark furnace room? On the other hand, he was in charge and should have given me more explanation. More of an explicit instructions, right? I started to climb up the side of the scaffold. Now, I do not know how much you know about scaffolds. Likely more than I knew. But there's a ladder built into the scaffold on one side. I, of course, was not on that end, so I began climbing up using the cross members for hand and footholds. All these years later, I can only imagine what was going through poor Mike's mind. Like, what the hell is this kid doing? And what can I do about it? You see, I decided to climb up the inside of the scaffold. On the side without the ladder. At the top, instead of being able to climb onto the platform, instead, I was under it. This meant that I had to climb out and around the platform, climbing onto it from under it. This would seem to be impossible. But I am here to tell you that it is nearly impossible, but it can be done. Hey kid, Mike called when I was safely on the platform. Don't you think it would have been easier to have climbed up the ladder on the outside of the scaffold? Well, I couldn't let that pass. So I called down. That is the problem with the world. Everyone looking for the easy way. I personally find it incredible what you can get away with if you are self-righteous enough, or at least appear to be. Mike, for the most part, just shook his head, most likely unable to believe that he had been put in charge of such a moron. He walked to a dark corner and retrieved a long metal pole and a large cylindrical brush. Mike handed the pole to me. That is, he stood it up next to the scaffold, and I had to pull it up from there. This turned out to be no easy task, as the pole ran into the roof before half its length had reached my hand, making it hard to turn so that I could place it on the scaffold. Add to that the fact that I was standing on a wobbly platform some 20 feet in the air. Yes, I'm afraid of heights. The fact that it was dark, too dark to see the floor, somewhat eased that fear, however. And above all, I could not admit that I was afraid of anything. Because I was 18, and in 1974, 18-year-old males are fearless, as well as being knowledgeable of everything. That's right. I knew everything when I was 18. I don't anymore, but when I was 18, I knew everything. It is a known fact that you start out smart and wind up stupid. Yes, ask your kids. They know all about it. And everything else too, probably. At any rate, after banging the ceiling a few times, breaking a light bulb, which it did absolutely nothing to improve the somewhat less than cheery ambience of the place, I did, however, learn a few new curse words from Mike, who apparently was less than happy that glass from the light bulb had rained down on his head. Now someone is going to have to replace that. And it's not going to be me, Mike railed. So get me a bulb. I'll take care of it, I answered. How are you going to get the broken bulb out? Mike demanded. Pliers. My answer was flat and matter of fact. Do you have any with you? Mike asked calmly. No, but you do. I'd seen the pliers Mike carried on his tool belt. They are not insulated, Mike said. It's okay, I said. Mike climbed partway up the ladder on the scaffold and handed me the pliers. I made careful mental note of where the ladder was and how it should be climbed. Better that Mike thought I was just being a smart aleck than knowing I knew nothing about a scaffold. When he was close enough, I took the pliers. Do you want the lights turned off? Mike asked. No need. I took the pliers, stood up on the wobbly platform, walked to the far edge, and using the pliers, removed the broken bulb. I was very careful to only touch the silver part. Because you know, if you touch the filament while you're holding the silver part, you get a good shock. You understand that, right? I then walked back and handed the broken bulb and the pliers to Mike. Careful, don't cut yourself, I cautioned as I handed the bulb, or rather what was left of it, to Mike. You took that out of a hot socket? Mike asked. Yeah, me and my dad always work electric hot. No big deal. Your dad taught you to work with electricity hot? Mike had a thoughtful tone to his voice. Yeah, nothing big, just outlets and running wires to breaker boxes, little stuff. I was bragging, but Dad and I really had done all that. Little stuff. I'll get you a new bulb. Don't move. The scaffold shook as Mike descended. I heard his footsteps, and the metal door opened and then slammed shut. It had a heavy spring on it to hold it shut in the event of a fire, so it always slammed shut. So there I sat alone in the dark, in utter terror, afraid to move for fear I would fall off the platform. To be honest, I was afraid of the dark along with fear of heights, and being alone made it worse. But the greatest fear was that the older men would find out that I was afraid. I sat there in the fetal position, shaking in fear for what seemed like hours. The door burst open. I heard the footsteps of at least 3 men charge into the room. "Jimmy, are you all right?" It was John. He sounded out of breath. "Yeah, I'm fine. I need a light bulb. Did you bring one?" I tried to sound confident and calm. "We have a light bulb for you." "What, were you sleeping up there?" John's tone has changed. I thought I even heard a chuckle. "Well, you know, if you can get paid to sleep, why not?" Mike brought the light bulb to me, the same way he delivered the flyers. "Be careful, kid," he said, as I took the bulb. "I'm always careful," I lied. "No, really, be careful." Mike descended the ladder once more. I took the large bulb out of the wrapper and walked to the edge of the platform. I reached out to put the light in the socket. "Jimmy, stop." It was John. His voice was high-pitched and strained. "What are you doing?" he asked. He then looked at Mike and motioned towards me. Mike made a motion with his hands I took to mean that he didn't know what John was talking about. "I'm putting the bulb in the socket," I answered. "You do not lean out from a scaffold. Who taught you how to work from a scaffold?" John was visibly agitated. "Mike, I guess." Well, it was the truth. John was amused by this answer. "Okay, sit down and we will move you closer." "Are you going to be okay with us moving the scaffold with you up there?" "Yeah, just don't knock it over," I said, only half in jest. "Do you want to come down until it is moved?" John asked. Now at the time, what I heard was John asking if I was too scared to have the scaffold moved while I was still on it. "Why, you think I'm scared or something?" In fact, I was so scared I could hardly stand from shaking, and nearly wet my pants. "No, but it might be safer," John added. "I'm fine. Let's get this done." I was not fine, but I knew if I got off the scaffold, I was not getting back on. I sat down in the middle of the scaffold. I felt it move under me. Tears ran down my cheek. But no matter what, I was not letting the guys know I was scared. When the socket was located in the middle of the platform, I called for them to stop. I stood up and put the bulb in the socket. It flashed on. "Wow, that's bright," I called. "Well, if you are done breaking things, do you want to clean the furnace?" "Hey, it was burned out anyway. At least now I can see what I'm doing." "Okay, hold on," John said. I sat down and hung on for dear life, knowing that the guys could not see me. They moved the scaffold over to the furnace door. It was the size of a mid-sized barn door. There were 2 doors on each of the furnaces. The doors were hinged on the outside, so that when fully opened, the entire set of heat transfer tubes were exposed. I spent the next 2 hours running that brush on the end of the long pole all the way down each tube and pulling it back 2 or 3 times. The guys wandered in and out, asking me if I needed anything and giving me advice when there were only 2 of us in the room. When I finished, John asked if I minded replacing the other lights that were burned out. I said, I'm here, might as well. After replacing the burnout bulbs, there were 5 or 6 of them, I was covered in soot from the furnace. I climbed down from the scaffold and looked around. Hey, you can actually see in here, I commented. Yeah, we finally found someone crazy enough to change those bulbs, someone commented half under their breath. As it was near quitting time, we all walked back towards the shop. At the shop, we were all sitting around waiting to go home. Jimmy, John called to me across the room. I know you know how to work electricity hot, but around here we turn it off before working on it, okay? I told Dad that was the way it should be done, but he just won't listen. There was a round of laughter, and we all left for the night.